It's okay. Oh no, it's not okay! It's not okay! After playing the Styx games, I had an urge to experience something new. I went on Steam Deep Dive looking for any interesting stealth title that jumped out at me, and I stumbled upon Filcher. For only $10, why not go ahead and give it a try? So I did. It's made by a Swedish solo dev, Johan Harpy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Published by Mythologic Interactive, which is a publishing company he and a partner started. Other than a few flash games on Newgrounds, Johan's work can be seen in a 2D fighting game called Super Fighters Deluxe. So what is Filcher? Well, Filcher is a first-person stealth sim akin to the original Thief series, where you take advantage of every opportunity you can to steal your way to infamy. Be warned though, there is no save system or checkpoints in this game. One fatal mistake could send you to the beginning of a level. No, fuck me. In the city of Malmberg, somewhere in northern Europe, a master thief named Sporey, aka the Finsbrook Filcher, has decided to go solo, leaving the gang who adopted and crafted her into the master thief she is. It's a basic premise, but enough to get the player interested in the motivations of our protagonist. The graphics in Filcher are very simple and almost reminds me of PlayStation 1 era, even though they're not quite there. If you've been around for a while, then you'll know that I'm a fan of the simplistic, low-poly style if it's executed correctly. Other titles, such as Pseudo Regalia and Warhammer 40k Boltgun use this and it's fantastic. Here in Filcher, however, it's hit or miss. But the point still stands, not everything has to push a 3090 to its limits to look good. Sometimes simple is better, and Filcher is another example. Filcher does have one glaring problem you may have already noticed, and that's the sprites. Using sprites for static objects, such as treasures you can loot, isn't a bad thing, especially if you're making a game by yourself. However, using sprites for enemies in a stealth title is questionable at best. Here's why. In stealth games, enemies have to be readable, and the most important part of that readability is what fucking direction they're facing. What you'll realize is that, yeah, an enemy sprite may be facing forward, but that doesn't mean it's not turning. Here's a good example right at the beginning of the first level. Even though I'm moving around an enemy, my perspective of what direction he's facing doesn't change until I pass a certain threshold. I can even find the exact point in where this changes. A guard could be turning from 1 degree to 44 degrees and you wouldn't even notice, which is a lot of room to play with before an enemy sprite changes what direction it's facing. Now this doesn't mean you get detected right away, but it's bothersome enough since you don't know where a guard is looking at exactly. You can get used to it, but you can never be sure. This applies to every enemy in the game. The sound work in the game is pretty good. It's nothing to write home about, but each sound serves its purpose without being annoying. The main thing you'll be hearing is your own loud-ass footsteps throughout the game. Which can be modified depending on what you're walking on, so let's go ahead and talk about that now and get it out of the way. Most floor surfaces create a loud noise when you walk on them, and that depends on the material of floor you're walking on. Walking on tile or wood creates a lot of noise. This can be reduced if you crouch, walk, or crouch walk. Noise can also be reduced if you walk on carpet, or you can use pocket moss. Throw it down once, realize it's useless, and forget about it. The loudest surface you'll find yourself walking on is metal, and holy fuck is it loud. For whatever reason, the protagonist thinks it's appropriate to wear lacquered shoes with Cuban heels while trying to sneak around someone's home. Which, for reference, those shoes look like this. Like I said, nothing crazy, but effective at its job. I'm not gonna lie, when I finished the game, I honestly had to think about whether or not there was music in the game at all. It exists, and it exists very well. You hardly notice it's there, and that's exactly what you want in a stealth sim. It's not in your face and allows you to think about your next move since it's mostly droning ambience. Sometimes it's so quiet I don't even think anything's playing sometimes. I won't reveal the actual number of levels Filcher has, that'll be during the spoiler section. Just know that there are a variety of levels. You'll find yourself in an upscale apartment, an insurance building, and a few high profile locations that I won't spoil either. For some reason though, they all feel samey. I can't put my finger on it though. I definitely know I'm in someone's apartment and not a nightclub. It just feels the same even though I know it's not. It may be because of the simplistic art style or because of how dark some areas are that they just all blend together. Either way, there was an effort into trying to make each level unique, and I can appreciate that. Most of the game consists of breaking into an area, avoiding detection, and stealing Funko Pops. You have your usual movement mechanics with a sprint that's always turned on. I questioned that choice at first, but you kind of get used to it. Holding down the shift key reduces your movement speed, and this works while crouching as well. This reduces the noise you make if you need to sneak up on a guard. While sprinting, you can press the crouch button to slide across a room. This definitely makes you feel like a speedrunner. You also have the ability to lean and look around corners that most stealth games have nowadays. When you're not parkouring your way to riches, you'll be sticking to the shadows as to not be seen. If you've played other stealth games, you already know how this works, and yes, it does have its own indicator. The throw object to distract an enemy mechanic also makes an appearance here. Filcher gives you plenty of tools to work with to navigate through a level. We'll go through these in order. The first tool you have is your blackjack, a melee tool that knocks out enemies in a single blow from behind, but absolutely useless when used from the front. Your second tool is the tranquilizer dart gun. It does exactly what the name implies and can knock out a guard in seconds. Its drawback, however, is that the round it fires has a huge drop off, so you have to do some quick math to figure out what angle to fire at. After knocking out a guard with either of those two, you have the ability to pick up a body and place it somewhere else. Your third tool is a flashlight. Pretty self-explanatory. The game tells you that enemies will detect you if they see the light it produces, so I just never did unless I was in absolute darkness. Your fourth tool is a set of lockpicks. Again, self-explanatory. The lockpicking in Filcher kind of highlights why lockpicking minigames are necessary, even though most of them suck. You're just sitting there waiting on an invisible timer that gets longer in later levels. If a lock can't be picked, your fifth tool is the keyring. It stores keys you've either looted or pickpocketed off guards. Just equip the keyring, click, and the door is unlocked. The sixth tool in your arsenal is a noisemaker. It keeps guards distracted slightly longer than a throwable you find in a map. Your seventh tool is an oh shit tool. If you find yourself surrounded with no way out, throw your trusty flashbang and make your escape. Your final tool is the pocket moss we already talked about. It'll dry up before you actually need it. All of the levels you explore will be crawling with guards and have the latest ADT security system installed. Guards are your typical stealth game bad guy. Grab their attention and you'll learn what it's like to live in Detroit. They also have guard dogs that move faster and can only melee attack you. But other than that, they function identically to the guards. Any damage taken can be healed by the most video game way imaginable: eating food. Every level has at least one camera that, after a short time of seeing you, will sound an alarm and all nearby guards will rush to its location. You can deactivate these by finding a security terminal in each level. There's also a few levels with a laser grid. These can be deactivated at a keypad with a corresponding code that can be found in that level. This and other clues are reasons to explore levels. I won't speak much on it here, but these levels are deceptively intricate and encourage you to read every document you find for a hint to where a secret might be. I'll reveal more in the spoiler section, but Filcher rewards attention to detail. Each level's goal is to steal an object of some importance. Ones in the earlier levels are easy to get to, but as the game goes on, this task becomes more and more complicated. You have the option to steal other trinkets and break into safes, but why would you? There's no reason to steal anything outside of the objective items unless you really care about the game's scoring and ranking system. Finally, before we move on, the game's biggest challenge is the checkpoint system, because it doesn't have one. If you get caught off guard and shot down, you have to restart the entire level. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this. On one hand, it challenges the player so they have little room for error and they really have to calculate what they're going to do. On the other hand, it feels really bad if you spent the last 20 minutes in a level and die. Sure, it prevents players from save scumming and making a short experience even shorter, but there should have been at least an option. Some of you may have heard that and have already decided that Filcher isn't for you, and that's okay. Filcher has no postgame. Upon completing the final mission, you are taken back to the mission select screen, where you can replay levels to find all the goodies and try your hand at going through a level without knocking any guards out. Filcher took me roughly 4.5 to 5 hours to beat. That time could be shorter if I had been a bit more careful and hadn't died. This is a title where you essentially set the pace. You can't necessarily speed through it, but it can last longer depending on how meticulous you are with exploration. I didn't encounter any game-breaking issues or even any annoyances besides the enemy sprites I talked about earlier. It's kind of weird playing a game with no glaring polish issues. Like, I'm kinda shocked. I'll be talking about story spoilers and showing a few secrets next, so if you don't want to see those, go to here. The story here is like the art style. Minimal. There are no pre-rendered cutscenes, but rather comic book style panels to read. Remember that this is a one-man dev team, so this is entirely reasonable. You play as Sporey, an orphan who was adopted and sculpted into the master thief she is by the leader of the Blackburn gang, Tarkus Blackburn. She's at the point in her life where she wants to fly solo and does just that. She leaves the gang and the first mission sees Sporey spreading her wings, stealing jewels in a scene ripped straight from Mission Impossible, lifting insurance documents, and rehoming a possibly cursed idol. After a few jobs solo, Tarkus has you brought back to his hideout. Sporey owes him. You're not told how much, but an entity called the Council has Blackburn's back and you must pay the debt or be hunted down and killed. So you do just that. Tarkus instructs you to steal a few items of very high value. The first is a tiara at a gangster-owned nightclub. This is the level that made me realize how intricate and secretive this game is and why it's worth exploring every level. Here's the moment. I walked down a hallway clearing out enemies as I went, avoiding cameras to the best of my ability. At some point I triggered an alarm and started hightailing it to safety so I didn't have to restart. I go back out through that same hallway and get killed by a guard standing in a doorway that wasn't there before. I thought, that must have been a bug or I missed a door. I restart the level, go back to the hallway, confirmed that there wasn't a door there and had my holy shit moment. There was a switch at the base of a statue across the hall that opened a secret door to a room where a guard who had oversight of the main floor was sitting. This blew my mind and made me want to start looking for these little red switches everywhere. Because I started being much more meticulous, I was being rewarded for it. This was a high point for me. After stealing the tiara, Tarkus sends you to a jewelry store to steal the Tearstone diamonds. This level introduces the last enemy type, which is a guard with a helmet. They're immune to backslabs. You either have to tranquilize them or avoid them completely. After navigating your way through the jewelry store and deactivating the security system, you break into the vault to find out that someone had beat you to it. Luckily for you though, they left the calling card. Sporey deduces that another gang, the Russian Nabokov Syndicate, stole the diamonds and are preparing to smuggle them on a ship to an undisclosed location. In this level, you do your thieving thing and thieve the thieved items from the thieving thieves. During all this thieving, the story takes a dark twist. Gunshots are heard in the Blackburn house and Tarkus' niece Molly makes a gruesome discovery. That Tarkus Blackburn has been murdered. While at her hideout, Sporey gets a call informing her that Tarkus is dead and that the Blackburners are coming. The Blackburners raid your hideout and you have to escape. At first, you don't have any of your equipment in this level. I was hoping the entire mission would be like this, but unfortunately, you can find your gear within a minute or two of the mission beginning. Some of the best levels in games are ones that strip you of your tools and challenge you just to figure it out. Unfortunately, Filcher doesn't do that. You just find your gear in the next room. What it does have is pianos that you can actually play. After leaving your hideout, you escape through the sewers. While escaping, Molly confronts Sporey. Between the arguing, they deduce that one of Tarkus' underlings, Eddie Symes, may be behind Tarkus' murder, but they have no proof. Sporey convinces Molly to let her sneak back into Blackburn House to find evidence of who the murderer is. Reluctantly, Molly agrees. The Blackburn House is the home of the thieves of the Blackburn gang. You'll see that Tarkus built an empire by adopting orphans to work for him. This reinforces why Blackburners are so unrelentingly after Sporey. They see her as a traitor for betraying the man who took her off the streets. Not only that, but they believe she murdered Tarkus. So it's entirely reasonable why they're all hostile towards her. Sporey has one friend left inside named Toby who is gone by the time you get to his room. He leaves a note containing a passcode to the upper floors and also informs you that there's a secret tape recorder under a statue in Tarkus's office. After fighting through a few guards and navigating through a few tight spots, you reach Tarkus's office. You move the statue and find out that the police discovered the recorder during their investigation. There's only one thing you can do from here: break into the police headquarters, which is a feat in of itself. Unfortunately, the game only has 3 enemy types. By now you know how to deal with them, and there's really no challenge in this final level. Once you kill the lights, break into the evidence vault, steal the tape, and escape, you're treated to the final cutscene. Mr. Symes had Mr. Money, a corrupt cop working for the Blackburn family, kill Tarkus. The Blackburners hear this and do the only thing appropriate. Sporey's name is cleared and she goes back to thieving. Johan left the ending open, but only time will tell if we'll ever get a sequel. It's not an amazing story, but it's enough to keep the player engaged while giving the protagonist solid motivations for what she does in the latter half of the game. The biggest red flag that has quite possibly turned people off from playing this game is that every level must be completed with no checkpoints or saving, which I understand why the game is designed this way. The dev wanted players to live the fantasy of being a master thief that, when makes mistakes, is severely punished, which is understandable. It's his vision for the game and how it should be played. Nobody plays Helldivers with the intent of not spreading managed democracy. For some people, however, they want to sit back, relax, and not sweat their way through a single-player game. Stealth nerds would argue against that mindset, but that's a discussion I'm not going to have. So how do you fix this? Well, it's simple. You give players the option. Give players an option at the beginning of a game that allows them to use saves, with the other option of not allowing saves, with the added, the way the game was intended to be played in parentheses. One other thing I would suggest is adding an upgrade system. Sure, the equipment you use does the job, but I feel like this could have been a good incentive to steal everything you could. Why not invest those useless dollary dues into a set of lockpicks that pick doors slightly faster? A different species of moss that can spread farther, or a new formula of sleep darts that puts guards out instantly. I constantly have to remind myself that this was a one-man dev team, but I feel like this is entirely within the realm of possibilities. 2 of those that I just mentioned is just changing a timer in the code. If Johan ever makes a sequel, an upgrade system will be a must. My final and maybe the most important suggestion here is that this title needs workshop support. Skyrim longevity and its notoriety came from the modding scene. Filcher could benefit from modding, not to the scale of Skyrim, but modders could add in a save system, more sprites, their own levels and enemies, and hell, even voice acting for the cutscenes. Even though this game is almost 3 years old, it can most certainly benefit. We're not getting any first-person stealth simulation title soon, so this could be an incredible platform for creativity. Is Filcher a good game? I think so. Sure, it's not impressive graphically, but neither is Minecraft. What matters here is if the gameplay is engaging, and it is. Should you give it a try? If you like what you saw, then you'll most likely enjoy Filcher. If you're on the fence, I'd recommend trying the demo. I have fun with it, but that doesn't mean you will. Filcher is a fun and challenging game for the right person. For the wrong person, it could be an annoying experience. I enjoyed my time with Filcher and really hope a sequel comes out at some point.